Hi, you're watching Construction Gaming and welcome back to Celtic City on Cities Skylines. This will be episode number 12 in the series, and in this episode I'm going to be showing you some of the footage of me building an eco-village using the Green Cities DLC. It's not something I've really used much of other than the power assets and the recycling in my city build, so it was nice just to use some of the other features of that particular DLC. But before I do that, I just want to welcome some of my new subscribers. I managed to get over 100 new subscribers since Saturday. I was just past the 400 subscriber mark, so thank you very much. Most of these have come from Biffa's channel. Most of you know Biffa, surely. Well, he's reviewed my new Chester build, which was my first ever full series on YouTube. Basically a city based on a real life location close to where I live, not to scale, but it was a close representation of, and Biffa seems to like it very much. I'll put a link to his review in the description below. It was good to see the old city again, because I haven't revisited it since I finished the series, pretty much, because I cleared all my assets and mods, started from scratch for this new build that I've started. So it was good to see it. Got a few good comments, so that was quite nice. A lot of people liking that city, and I hope they will like this city as well. We're only 12 episodes in, so we've still got a long way to go with this build yet, so I hope you'll stick around for that. So what have I done since the last episode? In the last episode I built this turbine interchange, which as you can see is working nicely. I've also done quite a bit since I built the eco village as well, which is behind me, so I'm not going to show you that just yet. This is all pretty much, I haven't done anything here. I've just moved up onto this little ridge here. I've built some properties and I built a telescope as well, just because it seemed like a good location for one. So this is pretty much the frontier, really, the end of this side of the map. I'm gonna come down here eventually. I've got some ideas for this in the future, and I've got just a piece of road and a piece of track coming off here, so I eventually might get across this little peninsula here, so I've just put some provision in there. I've extended the metro, so as you can see I've got my first passenger train service in, which just goes from here, like a shuttle from here to the main station, and then the metros come up to meet it as well. So the metro comes from the city centre direction, calling there and then up the hill. It's quite a steep climb, but that's about as gentle as I could get it. So it comes up here and it's got an interchange there, so buses obviously is always a must. Haven't planted the trees yet, but other than that I think that's all I've done. I'm trying to get to the 38,000 population number, so if I go into the UI you can see we are at 35, so we're not far off. Turn that off. So what I'm trying to do is something. I'm trying to look for population. Unemployment is 12, which is good because I've got some plans for upcoming episodes with industries. So I'm trying to build as many houses as possible and drive up unemployment. It seems a bit counterintuitive, but I want to build a really big industrial area, so we do need unemployment to be quite high to get those jobs satisfied, because as I've said in previous episodes, I'm not using any mods which unlock all the unique buildings, so we're going to have to start from scratch. So usually if we go to here, to reach next levels you need obviously workers and resources, so we need lots of workers for the large industrial area that I'm planning. I think that's it, without showing you too much of what I've built in the time-lapse portion. That is it. We're up to date. Now the Green Cities DLC's got some funky features which I'll talk about a bit more during the time lapse. which I will start now. Okie dokie, so first things first, I want to get some transport links in, and public transport and a road connection. The actual eco-village itself is going to be set away from the proper city in a little, it's almost like a little valley, so it's on its own, so it does need to have good links, good transport links. So what I'm going to do is extending the metro, or the tram rather, up to the eco-village, or what will be the eco-village, using the tram only tracks to create almost like a metro, use it as a metro. So it's going to be almost non-stop up to the village itself, with a couple of stops on the way. I think there will be a stop near to or close to the flour mill, just so people can get to work, but other than that it's going to be direct, as quick as possible, so it's a good beats the car basically to get to the city centre. Hopefully, possibly in the future I might come in with an actual underground metro or use the metro overhaul mod, but I will just see how it develops, and if the traffic grows enough that it actually requires more public transport, because there is only one road in and one road out, other than there will be a little connection to the single lane highway that I've got. Well, it's already in the game actually, it's already on the map, but I'm just making use of it. You can just see it to the right there, that kind of goes up and round to the right, and then it comes back down to what will be shortly the eco park. I've just taken some time as well while I'm over this side of the map just to extend and finish off east side. That's going to be where that particular district ends. So we've got the UK terraced houses, and then it just goes into the farmers' fields. It helps create a bit of a buffer, so you haven't just got like the built-up city and then it goes straight into farmland. That's not very realistic. So just the terraced houses helps kind of break that up and create a sort of buffer between the main city, what will be eventually, and the rural areas, I suppose, of the map. So for this next part, we're just getting into the actual build itself. I've already put in a zone. The district, and I've selected the self-sufficient residences and organic and local produce for the commercial. So any properties that spawn in this zone will be self-sufficient residential properties, and the commercial ones will be organic and local produce. The benefit of the self-sufficient houses are they use 30% less electricity, produce 30% less garbage, but they bring in 30% less tax. So for every benefit there is a cost there, but it should balance out within the game itself. The organic and local produce, the commercial shops, they actually 50%. It says 50% of the goods are sourced locally. Not quite sure what that means, but it does say that produces a 50% reduction in goods vehicles, which is a good thing. Produces 20% less rubbish, and weirdly it requires 20% more electricity. Now the only thing I can think is like the justification for that is because it's all fresh produce, then they require more refrigeration possibly. So that's the justification, I guess, for using more electricity. The actual village itself is going to be quite blocky, quite square, quite grid-like, just to get as maximum amount of properties within quite a small space. Actually, you can see what I mean by it's almost like a little valley or just hillside. I've made it quite smooth just to make it a bit easier to build on, and like I said, it's going to be quite gritty, just to maximise the space, really, using the minimum amount of space. Putting in the roundabout, which Biffa seem to like roundabouts in my new Chester build, and I do use a lot of them. I've been from the UK, we do like our roundabouts, it seems. but also they do have a purpose in game, and it's somewhere for buses to turn around. Because I do point-to-point bus routes, so the bus has to kind of go back on itself and retrace its steps going in the opposite direction. They could turn around, I guess, at the end of roads, and they do, but it just doesn't seem right, doesn't seem realistic. So having a roundabout is a really good way to have somewhere fairly realistic for buses to turn around, unless you have a bus interchange, but often it doesn't require a bus interchange, especially if you've got a bus line that, you know, it's going in towards a residential area. There's not going to be a bus interchange in a residential area, so just having somewhere to turn around is just handy. So you can see there I've also extended the metro up. I'm using my tram turnarounds, which you created using a park. Again, it's just somewhere nice and simple, straightforward for trams to come in and turn around and head back in the direction from which they came, without having to build a separate road section. It's just neat and tidy, I guess, is the point of that. So you can see I've just put in a tram stop just close to the flour mill, like I said I was going to. This section right at the top here is like a whole educational complex using, I think, the special, like the creative art schools or whatever they're called. I think they came with the Green Cities DLC as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they did. They just look a bit different to the usual school, so I thought I'd have those in. They cost more, which is frustrating, but they have less capacity, but they just look different and they look nice. So I put those in there just to create a educational complex, because this is out of the way really, so you don't want these students to have to travel too far. You want them to be you want the schools close to the residential areas as possible. So I've just built that little area there. You can see I'm making as much use of the grid as I can, getting as much property in as I can in such a small area. Just bits of commercial, just some shopping just placed in between really. Now that I've got the first sections of zoning in, you can see playing the game on top speed, buildings are already starting to spawn, and they are interesting looking buildings. They do look really nice actually, so it's a shame that I haven't used this more, and I might try and incorporate some Green Cities DLC zoning within the actual city itself, but for this I just wanted to create a specific area using the DLC. The buildings do look quite nice. I think I did actually use a bit of it in Newchester. Some of the residential properties I think were actually based on the self-sufficient buildings, so I've used them before but not to this scale, and I think I'm going to have to use them a lot more if I can find an excuse to a particular district within the actual city centre itself, then I will do. So this road here is the only road in and out, so I'm going to have to watch the traffic on that particularly. Now what I do, I'm not sure if I did it on the camera or not, is I actually selected in the policies that to actually live in this city you've got to have electric cars only, so it will encourage people to use electric cars which are quieter, which will obviously make people happier within this area. Possibly, I'm not sure what effect it has on the actual traffic use. Hopefully with the tram provision that I've put in there, they've got the tram network, and I also use the National Express coaches, which I talked about before, to have an express route as well. So the bus route just goes from the Eco Park, from that roundabout that I built before, to the interchange that I built in the previous episode. So it's just a rapid bus network, well, not even a network, just a bus link to an area that's got extra public transport links to take you on to the likes of the main rail station and other parts of the city. As you can see, I'm going a bit to town with the trees like I always do, just helps fill the space. And obviously this is an eco park, so it wants as many trees, it wants to look nice. And I know the grid's not really, I don't know, eco friendly, it doesn't look very eco I think, but it does maximise the amount of space, the amount of utilisation of the space rather. So just put in some trees just to make it look a bit nicer, and then just smooth off the mountains just to finish the area off. And I think that is pretty much the village, the eco village, finished. But before I wrap it up, just to say that at the end of the video there will be a cinematic of the finished eco village, so stick around for that. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please do hit the like button, because it really does help small channels like mine get noticed. But I think that is pretty much all of this particular build finished, so I will hand over now to the nice cinematics with a bit of music, and I will say until next time, bye bye.